The moment that you were born is a very special moment. It was chosen by your soul to take in characteristics that were present in the stars and the planets around the Earth, meaning there were certain energetics at play that would allow your soul to come in and have certain experiences and achieve certain things during this lifetime. It was certainly not random. I recently wrote a post about how we can use astrology for soul development, for spiritual development, because astrology is not just about, oh, I'm an Aquarius, and so therefore my entire personality is based on this one sign, Aquarius. There's a whole world of information that's available on your natal chart, on your birth chart, because the moment that you were born is a very special moment. It was chosen by your soul to take in characteristics that were present in the stars and the planets around the Earth, meaning there were certain energetics at play that would allow your soul to come in and have certain experiences and achieve certain things during this lifetime. It was certainly not random. Not only is your moment of birth tied to, of course, your family that you've chosen, right? Who are your parents and when in time and space you're being born, but it also has to do with the entire cosmos and its interaction with the Earth at that time. So how can we make this more of a lived experience? How can we really understand all of these glyphs and technical information that we find on a chart? And I find it very simple to start with 3 things. Of course, these are the very common things that a lot of people talk about, but it doesn't stop there. So first off, of course, you have your sun sign that relates to the season that you're being born in. I was born in the winter, therefore I'm Aquarius. It's the dead of winter, fixed air. Others might be born in the middle of summer in Leo, directly opposite Aquarius. So that has an impact on where you're shining. Where is the sun is really shining that aspect of your life. And not only is that talking about, your, parts of your personality, but it also has to do with the where in your life that sun is shining more brightly. And that depends on where you were born and exactly at what time you were born. Because although, yes, the stars are up in the sky, you're born down here on Earth in a particular place. And so as that soul is coming into its incarnation, everything is set based on that location on Earth and the time. And that's going to determine your ascendant. The ascendant is what was rising in the horizon at the time of your birth. And by that, I'm referring to the zodiac sign. Now, that sign is going to be influencing you in a way of how you're perceived by others. And then the moon is how you feel. What are the characteristics of your emotional life? So these are some 3 basic things, but of course there are all of these other planets that are also adding a flavor to your chart. And we spend the first maybe 28 years of our lives building up who we are. In the first 21 years, we're still forming our personality. Even in the first 7 years, we're still like forming our organs. They're still not fully developed until around 7 years of age. And then you still have, of course, the growth of the body and the development of the reproductive organs. And during all of this time, the planets have their influence on our development. And it's only later that as we start to reflect back on what we have lived, that we start to understand what the influence of these planets and their placements in our chart are on our lives and how we experience things. And I mentioned the 28, 29 age mark because that's that first Saturn return. And that really is the biggest karmic moment of our life. Every time Saturn comes around and reignites that point of where it was when you were born. The Saturn cycle is a very deep cycle. As I mentioned, it's like about 29.6 years, I think, to be exact. But we like to refer to it as 7-year cycles or 7-year increments because it's like every Saturn square, or every 90 degrees that it moves. And from a esoteric lens, that also marks important developmental milestones in the first 28 years of life or 29 years of life. And from that point on, it will show us repeated patterns, repeated karmic patterns that we're here to grapple with and to learn from and to make different choices from, right? You learn the first time around, ooh, gosh, that was hard, and I reacted a certain way. And the second time around, maybe you can react, or rather respond, in a way that shows more awareness and more insight. And that's the whole point of working with your chart. It's not just the Saturn cycles, it's with, like I said, with every planet, but Saturn is a very heavy one, shall we say. There are further planets out, but they move so slowly that they don't affect just us personally. It seems to be more of a transpersonal or generational planetary influences. So, for example, Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, they all move extremely slowly, and entire generations will have similar placements of those planets in their chart, at least when it comes to the sign. Of course, where in their lives it is placed will vary. So astrology is not about just trying to figure out who you're a good match with, although it does work for that too, especially if you do it seriously, as in synastry charts. It can also be used for timing important things like the launching of a new project or a new business. But really importantly, it's to help you get to know yourself better. And ultimately, the entire goal of your spiritual development is to know yourself. Because when you know yourself, you can really meet the world from a point of awareness and love. When you know yourself, you can accept yourself. And from acceptance, you can begin to love yourself. And when you love yourself, then you can really love the other. The more we can all know ourselves, the more we can be aware of our thoughts, of our speech, and of our actions, the better we can choose so that we make choices, that we act in ways that are harmonious with our environment, with our family, our neighbors, our friends. And that translates to communities, nations across the entire world. So yeah, astrology is more than just a sun sign horoscope. Although to be honest, it was the first time that I got interested in it was as a child reading like about the Aquarius horoscope in Cosmopolitan magazine because I'm a girl and that's what we did. But that's just the nowadays clickbait, that's the very superficial or extremely superficial level. And you can get really deep and really use it as a tool for self-development. And I encourage you to do that. I'm not an astrologer, technically, but I've studied it so much that I know a lot and I can share this wisdom with you. And if you like that idea of going deep with your chart, doing it in a rhythmic way, tracking the moons, the new moon and the full moon, and the phases in between, trying to understand where that's falling in your chart, meaning in your life, because your chart is a map of your life. What part of your life is being influenced? What should you be on the lookout for? Where can you make wise choices, plan in advance what it enables? And if you're looking for a community to do that with, I invite you to join the Spiral of Becoming. It's a community that I founded for this type of interaction. I lead a ceremony twice a month at the new moon and the full moon. And it's during these ceremonies that I also share information that comes to me through channeled material, meaning communication that I have with the spirit world, as well as intellectual information that I gather from what the transits are and my intuitive interpretation of it. And in addition to that, we have guests who come often to share their gifts, whether that be energetic healing or some deep meditative journeying. It all leads to a deeper knowledge and encounter with yourself and with the community. So if you're interested, the link to join is in the show notes, and I would really love to see you there. Feel free to send me any questions. And if you think of anyone who might enjoy this content or might enjoy the Spiral of Becoming, please share this video with them. Thank you, and I'll see you again.